Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be going over my pile of possibilities for the very special, meaningful We Love Jenny Readathon. This is hosted by Christy Lewis at Dostoevsky in Space and Tiffany at Beautiful Minutia. This is to honor the life of Jennifer Brooks, a booktuber who sadly passed away in early January. She was like only 31 years old, 13 years younger than I am. I was so shocked to learn of her passing, but her church made available to us her lovely memorial service. That was a very wonderful thing to watch, get to learn more about her. She was one of the first, I believe, one of the first booktubers I subscribed to. It was, I think, sometime in the spring of 2021. So this was before I began adding content of my own for my own on BookTube and AuthorTube channel. Again, I particularly enjoyed her. Well, I enjoyed all of her videos, but I particularly liked her videos about, historical eras, historical events, books about history, historical fiction, nonfiction, like classic literature. And Dante, we both shared a great love of Dante. If you don't already know, I have a whole playlist called All About Dante and the Divine Comedy, and I do plan to start adding videos to it again during this coming year. And obviously I have my some of my Divine Comedy and other Dante books behind me on the shelf, and the prompts are basically kind of open-ended. Just read the kinds of books Jennifer liked reading. For example, historical fiction, classic literature, Dante, of course, like religion, Christianity, the Bible, just some things like that. And there is a group read. I'm going to be pulling them out of my library bags, which are on the floor, and you can basically and I might be adding more books to this afterwards. These aren't the only books I might be reading for the readathon, and I would like to thank our hostesses for putting together such a lovely readathon. They were very close with Jennifer, so this must be I know this is really emotionally hard for them, but for the community, they're putting together this lovely readathon to honor her life and the things which she loved reading. And there's also a group read. Obviously, I'm going to be pulling out all of the books, and this one I already did a video. I'm sorry, I keep saying post when I'm making videos because I'm so used to blogging for so many years, long before I started my channel. So sometimes I will accidentally say I'll talk about that in a future post, and when I mean video, I did mention this in a previous video for my Historathon 2024 quarter one already. This looked really cool. I was just wandering through the religion shelf at my local library, and I'm a student of world religions, and I love food. Like, one of my top 5 greatest writing compliments I've ever gotten, many times. People love the food scenes in the books I'm writing. So who could resist a book about food? And there's lots of over 100 recipes in here from biblical times. For example, how they would hold the Pesach, a Passover Seder, in the first century of the Common Era. For example, spiced wine. I'm still longing to try that someday, hard-boiled eggs and fish sauce, egg bread. There's a wedding cake based on a recipe or something described by the Roman historian Cato, a bulgur pilaf, chickpea and cucumber salad. There's lots of chickpea recipes in here, and this is basically the synopsis. The New Testament is filled with stories of Jesus eating with people, from extravagant wedding banquets to simple meals of loaves and fishes. The food and feasts of Jesus offers a new perspective on life in biblical times. By taking readers inside these meals, food production and distribution impacted all aspects of ancient life, including the teachings of Jesus, from elaborate holiday feasts to a simple farmer's lunch. This book explores the significance of various meals, discusses key ingredients, places food within the socio-economic conditions of the time, and offers more than 50 accessible recipes. I'm sorry, I thought there were over 100 recipes for readers to make their own tastes of the first century. Ideal for individual reading or group study, this book opens a window into the tumultuous world of the first century and invites readers to smell, touch, and taste the era's food. Oh, and what else I forgot to mention, one of the other possible prompts to read is read something related to K-pop or watch K-pop music. I mean, admittedly, that seemed like something meant more for a younger generation, but I've never really listened to it or gotten into it, so you never know. Maybe I would, end up liking K-pop, despite being a Gen Xer and feeling like that's just more for millennials and Zoomers. I never thought I would become a Durrani either, and Valentine's Day will be my 13th anniversary. How did that happen? I thought I would only ever love classic rock and pop, and so let's just start pulling the books out of the bags. This is one of the 2 main library bags which I use. This comes with a plushy, dreadful, like epilepsy bunny. He's the one behind me in the middle on the back, on the top shelf. I got him in honor of Dante, who many scholars believe possibly had epilepsy or a very similar condition. And I named him Dante Bunny, you know, just in honor of Dante. And so let's see what's coming out. First, I pulled off the tags for the ones I had requested. Obviously, I don't want like personal info getting on the, you know, camera. This is The Villa. This is the group read by Rachel Hawkins. I do not believe I had ever heard of this author or the book, but, you know, hopefully it'll be very interesting. And that's the kind of, you know, a cool cover. I always love covers that have like artwork, even if it's like digital artwork, instead of like a person, particularly the, oh, look, my head is missing trend. So that's, you know, always fun. And here's the synopsis. As kids, Emily and Chess were inseparable. But now in their 30s, their bond has been strained by the demands of their adult lives. So when Chess suggests a girls' trip to Italy, Emily jumps at the chance to reconnect. Villa, hopefully I'm not going to mangle this pronunciation, Villa Istas in Orvieto is a high-end holiday home now, but in 1974 it was known as Villa Rosato and was rented for the summer by the notorious rock star Noel Gordon. Desperate to reignite his creative spark, Noel invited up-and-coming musician Pierce Sheldon to join him, as well as Pierce's girlfriend, Mari, and her stepsister, Lara. But he also set in motion a chain of events that led to Mari writing one of the greatest horror novels of all time, Lara composing a platinum album, and ended in Pierce's brutal murder. As Emily digs into the villa's complicated history, she begins to suspect there's more to the story of that fateful summer in 1974. That perhaps Pierce's murder wasn't just a tale of sex, drugs, and rock and roll gone wrong, but that something more sinister might have occurred, and that there might be clues hidden in the now iconic works that Mari and Lara left behind. When long-buried secrets come to light, Emily discovers that history has a way of repeating itself, and that the villa may claim another victim before the summer ends. Inspired by Fleetwood Mac, the Manson murders, and the infamous summer Percy and Mary Shelley spent with Lord Byron at a Lake Geneva castle, the birthplace of Frankenstein, Rachel Hawkins' The Villa invites you into its deadly legacy, so hopefully I will be enjoying that one. And let's see what's coming up next. I found this on, you know, display. They have like thematic displays throughout the library. This is kind of, I guess, related to, or yeah, I was one of the thematic displays, like related to like different things throughout the year. And this is obviously like related to the religion prompt. Like I should mention, like if you haven't already read my about section, I am Jewish, so obviously like we have much different terminology for talking about things than Christians do, like different ways of interpreting and translating the Bible. But again, I have always loved world religions from a very, very young age. I just, you know, love exploring like what different people believe and incorporating some like, you know, non-conflicting aspects of other religions into my own personal practice. The ones I feel closest to after my own are like Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, and Jainism. But I should really like start learning a little bit more about, you know, like Christian history and theology. Unfortunately, like many Jews have like generational trauma about Christianity for obvious reasons, but I'm definitely, you know, open to learning a little bit more about, you know, the history and theology so I can be like more well-rounded student about world religions. And this is like, we say we are infidels. It's about, you know, Christians living in the modern Middle East. Many people might not realize this before, like the Islamic conquest. There were like very, very large Christian and Jewish communities throughout the Middle East, like in North Africa and like the Southwest to Asia, but unfortunately they're like very tiny persecuted minorities now, and they're almost like there are at least like some Christian minorities left in the Middle East, but there's like pretty much no Jews left in any of those other countries. They were ethnically cleansed, like almost 850,000 of them during the 1940s through the 1970s, and almost all of them found refuge in our indigenous homeland of Eretz Yisrael. And so this is basically just like the synopsis is talking about like a couple of, you know, people, Christians living in the Middle East and their families and the difficult things they go through living under like, you know, Islamic theocracy and like stuff like that. So that will hopefully be a meaningful read. And this is the one I already started reading through this on Shabbos on Saturday. I couldn't resist this in the religion section when I saw it was by, you know, President Carter. He was president when I was born, and I've, you know, when I found out he had, you know, first gone into hospice, and then his condition was, you know, starting to deteriorate even with hospice, I was like moved to tears. And I'm a person who tends to like dissociate and self-protective mechanism against like grief and trauma. But this was like, he was president when I was born. It's like a piece of my childhood, my own history is going to go. I really, really hope he makes it to, 100. And when like his people at the, I think it was the Carter Library account on Twitter put out, President Carter was going into hospice, and here's where we can like send, messages of love and support and just like, what he means to us. I definitely wrote in my own message of like how much I, admire and respect him. I'm so proud he was, president when I was born, and just think he's just a wonderful example of like someone who genuinely lives his faith. Like he doesn't have to shout, "Oh, look at me, I'm doing these items on a checklist to prove what a good Christian or just good human being in general I am." He just, lives his faith like without like making a big production and a show out of it. And he's also one of those presidents like Hoover who has been like a much better like, former president than president, but obviously that's a topic for another thing. This is just, and it's just, he's a wonderful person. I just, love reading his insights about his life and his like religious faith. All his life, President Jimmy Carter has been a courageous exemplar of faith. Now he shares the lessons he has learned. He writes, "The issue of faith arises in almost every area of human existence, so it is important to understand its multiple meanings. In this book, my primary goal is to explore the broader meaning of faith, its far-reaching effect on our lives, and its relationship to past, present, and future events in America and around the world. I also emphasize the religious aspects of faith, since this is how the word is most often used. And I have included a description of the ways my own faith has guided and sustained me, as well as how it has challenged and driven me to seek a closer and better relationship with people and with God. As President Carter examines faith's many meanings, he describes how to accept it, live it, how to doubt and find faith again. A serious and moving witness from one of America's most admired and respected citizens." And isn't that a lovely picture of President Carter on the about the author section that unfortunately they covered a little bit on the back, but he's talking like throughout his 9 decades his faith in other people. I just can't read, and I couldn't find it on Amazon either, the thing on the back. So he's basically talking throughout his 9 decades, his faith in other people and something else has provided necessary stability, as I have enjoyed mostly happy times and gratifying accomplishments. As an adult, I moved from a naval career to farming, to business, to politics, and, since the end of my presidency, to a challenging and enjoyable life as a college professor, a private citizen with worldwide interests through the Carter Center, an author, an aspiring craftsman and artist, and to the mostly pleasant responsibilities of a senior citizen with a large family. I have been blessed with a loving and enduring marriage and have attained many of the goals I set for myself as a young man. Some of my career changes were of my own choosing, and others have been forced on me by what I considered at the time to be disappointments or complete failures. Throughout these years, my faith as a Christian has provided the necessary stability in my life. Come to think of it, stability is not exactly the right word, because to have faith in something is an inducement not to dormancy, but to action. To me, faith is not just a noun, but also a verb. And this is, let me see, what is this one? This is, a biography of King Alfred the Great. I remember Jennifer had at least one video talking about him and, like the Vikings and early English history, and like English history in general. I was so thrilled a couple of years ago. I'm sorry if like this is being pulled, and I know this is not the best place for filming, but I don't have much choice. But I really, really love King Alfred the Great, and when I was doing like some genealogical research a few years ago, I was thrilled to discover he was one of my own ancestors. He's my 36 great grandpap, so just is like really, really cool. Someday I'm planning to write like a historical fiction novel about King Alfred, the only monarch in all of English history to be called the Great. I believe he was the first monarch of a unified early England. Like before that, they were just his ancestors, and my ancestors too were like ruling Wessex, not the entire like united country. So he was just a really, really cool character. In history, I really love him and admire him. I feel like we kind of kindred spirits because he was a man of letters. He loved education, books, reading, learning. He wanted to do like religious and like political reforms and stuff like that. He realized education was extremely important because like a literate population is like a population who can improve their lives, and just so many really, really cool, fun, awesome things. Unfortunately, like his like remains like disappeared throughout history, so I don't think we know where they are now. But it would just be fun to go visit England someday, and among other things, see the places where he had actually walked and like done really important things. And this was also recommended a biography of Paul. Again, as I have, mentioned, like being Jewish, I have much, much different like opinions or like views on some of these, people from the like Christian Bible and Christian history than Christians themselves. But I can at least, try to maybe understand a little bit more, none. I mean, I obviously like generational trauma is like its own thing, and that will color a lot of my outlook on the world. But just to learn more about these like figures instead of just feeling like, oh, why should I read about that person all just because of like church anti-Semitism and history and stuff like that. Like just like give it a chance and learn. So this will be like really interesting to get into. It's just basically like a biography about Paul and just like historic. Oh, and I should mention this, my 10th grade AP European history teacher, like we were learning about ancient history, even though the AP only covered, I believe, like Middle Ages through like the present era, and he was like laughing, oh, Paul, he was always writing to those Corinthians. So like when I see or hear like Corinthians now, I just think of what Mr. McGurn said about Paul. Like, was he afraid they were like slipping, or did he want to like constantly check up on him? Because it seemed like he was writing more letters to them than any other people. And let's pull the other book out of the other bag. This is my other main library bag with Cerberus, the three-headed bunny. I also have a plushie, who is like the three-headed bunny. And I am going to have to change the floor to show you guys one of the books in this bag, because it is like so freaking big. It's a big coffee table book, and I need a much better camera angle to do that. And this is another book about Alfred the Great. This is a historical novel, The Dragon and the Raven. I was kind of disappointed when I like saw the formatting of the book. This could definitely use like an updated printing. This kind of looks like typewriter font, like screaming like 70s or 80s, instead of with like a more like readable font and just different formatting. If I ever do, well, I do plan to get like screen recording technology, and I will finally then do the video I've been promising for a while about like book formatting for both like writers and readers, like what looks most comfortable. But so in the days of King Alfred, when the whole country of Britain was for years overrun by hordes of pagan barbarians who slaughtered, plundered, and destroyed at will. That's a sentence fragment that tripped me up when I was reading it the first time. From this terrible state of subjection and suffering, the Saxons were rescued by the prudence, the patience, the valor, and wisdom of King Alfred. In all subsequent ages, England has produced no single man who united in himself so many great qualities as did this first of great Englishmen. He was learned, wise, brave, prudent, and pious, devoted to his people, clement to his conquered enemies. He was as great in peace as in war, and yet few know the rule of Alfred's reign. And like obviously another of the possible prompts is, to read like a book about Dante or the Divine Comedy or other works. But obviously I don't need an excuse to do that, but maybe I will use that as an excuse to do some more reading. I'll just take my plushies off so you guys can see it. This is Theodore. I have like unboxing videos of them, and this is Jelly Bean is like pineapple rabbits, and these are my Bible and some of my Jewish books in my physical custody. Unfortunately, most of the rest are in storage 900 miles away. And this is my translation of the Bible, which Jews call the Tanakh. It's an acronym of Torah, Nevi'im, prophets, and Ketuvim. Writing, we don't use the terms Old and New Testament, just in case you're like wondering. And these are like Rashi's commentaries on the Pentateuch, the Torah, and like the 5 books of Miriam, women's commentary on the Torah, which does have a couple of like dated comments in it, because it was like written in the 90s. And just basically, oh, there's the Haggadah for the Passover Seder. You can go review my video, which I was going to say post my video I did on my bookshelf tour about my Jewish books. Now I'll just change my position so you guys can see the big coffee table book in the last bag. And this is the final book. I absolutely could not resist this one when I was browsing the religion shelves to find something that would be like an interesting book about Christianity to read, that Jennifer herself might have wanted to read, or maybe she even did read this herself, the Illustrated Bible, story by story. I cannot resist a good coffee table book with like beautiful pictures, and particularly when it's about like a historical subject. That's just icing on the cake. It's just beyond literature and beyond history. It just combines all of those things, and like learning more about where these stories actually took place. Unfortunately, many people these days, they're kind of like denying my people are indigenous to the land of Israel, when there's like literally all this archaeological evidence like proving we lived there. Even if people don't like literally believe in every word of the Bible, you cannot, actually deny we were like living there thousands of years ago and left behind all sorts of like archaeological proof, like we lived in these cities mentioned in the Bible. And some of these events, like after a certain point, you do have like, historical evidence they did happen. Like, for example, the historicity of like, King David and Samuel and stuff like that. And just like all the beautiful, like, ancient artwork. Yeah, this is a much better angle for holding up big coffee table books than when I'm, sitting at my desk over there. Let's see what else. Saul, Israel's first king. My favorite books of the Bible my favorite book of the Bible has always been like the first book of Samuel, but I also like the second book of Samuel as well. I just, love all those stories about like Samuel and like King David and Saul and all those other, people in the stories. Just fun if I'm ever, blessed with children before time runs out and I have a boy, I will be naming him Samuel. I just love that name, and particularly the story of like Hannah and Samuel. It like just really speaks to me. I'll obviously be talking about that more if I can ever start another channel like just about like specifically like Jewish content. So just like all these like really interesting like fun things. Like one of the things I love about studying religions is it's a combination of like literature, like history, like archaeology, like religion, like culture, society, like art, architecture. So many like really interesting fun things. So I'm gonna have a lot of like fun, like look, oh, here it is again. Paul and the Corinthians, what are the odds? Like have a lot of fun like looking through this book and just like learning more about all this like really fascinating things that has made me be so interested in like religion over the times. And this is just like a reference section in the back talking about like people in the Bible and just stuff like that. And so hopefully this video is not too like rambly and all over the place. I think this is a really beautiful special meaningful readathon. Jennifer would have really enjoyed it. She had so many wonderful videos which I always enjoyed watching about like history, like classic literature, like Dante, like poetry, the ancients. And I did sorry I forgot to mention this at the beginning, I did take part in a number of readathons which she hosted as well. So I'm really definitely going to miss her presence on BookTube, and again go back through and see some of her older videos and videos I never watched the first time around. So obviously hopefully her channel will stay up and people will continue like learning from her and like getting book recommendations. And another book of hers, I don't have it with me right now. I'm going to finally get it from Amazon. Was Giorgio Vasari's Lives of the Artists from the early, I believe the early Renaissance in Italy. Just an early work of art history. One of my favorite subjects too. She recommended that on her channel, and I do not believe I had ever heard of that book before. So thank you guys very much for watching. Please consider leaving a comment and subscribing if you haven't already. I do really would like to make some more friends on BookTube, although I've kind of like made my peace at this point with like being kind of like a lone wolf who hasn't like found a tribe of friends yet. So see you guys again very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.